It usually starts in childhood. A small, almost invisible moment that plants itself deep in the psyche. A boy sits on the floor of his best friend's living room. His friend asks, "Do you want to play this game?" The boy doesn't like the game. In fact, he hates it. But he smiles politely, nods his head, and says, "Sure." Because he has already learned, without anyone telling him, that being accepted often requires silence, agreement, and self-erasure. The game starts. His friend laughs, fully immersed. The boy sits quietly, trying to enjoy it, but deep down he feels a strange, subtle irritation. It's not the game that bothers him, it's himself. Because he knows he's hiding. He knows he's pretending. And yet, he continues. That small choice doesn't seem significant. One activity, one harmless lie, one tiny act of self-betrayal. But repeated hundreds of times across years, always saying yes, always agreeing, always avoiding conflict, it grows into a pattern. A mask. A personality that looks like kindness but is actually fear dressed in politeness. By the time this child becomes a teenager, and then an adult, the pattern is so ingrained that he doesn't even notice it anymore. He believes this is just who he is, the nice one. The friend who never argues. The partner who never complains. The employee who never refuses. The son or daughter who always agrees. But beneath the smile lies something else, an invisible resentment, a quiet exhaustion, and a question that grows heavier with each year. If I'm always making others happy, why do I feel so empty? As the boy grows into adolescence, the pattern deepens. High school becomes the perfect stage for this hidden script to play out. Whenever someone asks, "Do you want to hang out? Can you help me with this? Can you cover for me?" His answer is almost always the same, "Yes, of course." On the surface, he is loved. He is the reliable one, the agreeable one, the easygoing one. But behind that constant yes lies an unspoken cost, time that isn't his own, hobbies abandoned, schoolwork neglected, and a self that slowly fades into the background. Friends see him as dependable, but secretly, he feels used. He begins to harbor a quiet bitterness, not because others mistreat him, but because he never speaks the truth. He never admits when he is tired, when he disagrees, or when he simply doesn't want to do something. By college, the pattern sharpens. He finds himself in his first serious relationship. At first, it feels like love, alive, intoxicating, real. But over time, small issues arise. His partner neglects him, pushes boundaries, even betrays his trust. Yet he stays. He swallows the pain, avoids confrontation, and tells himself, "At least we don't fight." But silence is not peace. It is decay. Every unspoken resentment corrodes connection until the relationship collapses under the weight of everything he never said. The same dynamic follows him into work. In his first job, he is the smiling employee who agrees to everything, even tasks far outside his role. Managers praise his attitude, but rarely reward his effort. Colleagues offload their responsibilities onto him, and he accepts, quietly drowning under the weight of obligations he never wanted. From the outside, he looks like the model of kindness, patience, and cooperation. But on the inside, he feels invisible, exhausted, and quietly angry. By his late 20s, he looks around and realizes that despite always trying to please others, he is alone. Friends have drifted, relationships have ended, and his career feels stagnant. This is the paradox of being too nice. You sacrifice yourself for others, only to end up resenting them, and losing yourself in the process. In his late 20s, after years of friendships that faded, jobs that drained him, and a love that shattered, he sits across from someone new, a woman who sees through him in a way no one else ever has. At first, their conversations feel light, playful. But then she pauses, looks him in the eyes, and asks the question no one had ever dared to ask before. Are you actually kind, or are you just obsessed with being nice? The words sting because they hold a truth he had never considered. His entire life, he thought he was putting others first, being selfless, being good. But was it really selflessness, or was it fear? Fear of rejection. Fear of conflict. Fear of being disliked. And beneath that fear, something darker. A subtle kind of self-absorption. Because in always trying to appear agreeable, he wasn't truly seeing others at all. He was only seeing himself through their eyes, constantly curating a version of himself that would be liked, accepted, and safe. This is the painful paradox. Niceness without honesty isn't kindness. It's manipulation. It's not about caring for others, it's about controlling how others see you. True kindness, she explains, is not silent. It is not submissive. It is not swallowing every frustration and pretending nothing is wrong. Real kindness is confrontation with love. It is the willingness to say no, to set boundaries, to be honest even when honesty might upset someone, because only then can the relationship be real. For the first time, he sees himself clearly, not as a victim of selfish people, but as a participant in his own misery. He had traded authenticity for approval, and in the process, lost both. This is the turning point. The moment where the mask of niceness cracks, and the possibility of becoming truly kind begins. Carl Jung once warned that the less the shadow is embodied in our conscious life, the blacker and denser it becomes. Fred's story isn't just about being too nice. It's a story about the shadow, the hidden, repressed parts of ourselves that we deny because they feel uncomfortable, dangerous, or unworthy. By always choosing to be agreeable, Fred thought he was avoiding conflict. But in truth, he was repressing anger, disappointment, and desire. He was pushing all of those very human emotions into his shadow, until they surfaced as resentment, passive withdrawal, and sudden disappearances. This is the hidden cost of niceness. When you silence your truth, you don't erase it, you bury it alive. And what is buried always finds its way back. Jung believed that if we fail to confront our shadow, it controls us from the dark. Fred's flakiness with friends, his unspoken bitterness in love, his sudden quitting at jobs, these weren't random mistakes. They were his unconscious trying to speak after years of being silenced. The truth is this: being good in the eyes of others often comes at the expense of being real. And the longer we postpone authenticity, the heavier the shadow grows. But here lies the paradox. Within the shadow are not only our fears and flaws, but also our strength. The courage to say no. The ability to be assertive without cruelty. The confidence to ask for what we need. When Fred's new companion challenged him, she wasn't just questioning his behavior. She was pointing him to his shadow, urging him to stop hiding behind a mask of niceness and to integrate the very qualities he had spent his life denying. This is the work Jung called individuation, the lifelong process of becoming whole by reconciling the light and dark within us. True kindness is born not from repression, but from integration. Only when we face our shadow can we be both honest and compassionate, both firm and loving. Because, in the end, people don't need you to always be nice. They need you to be real. Fred's journey is not unique. It's the silent story of millions of people who were taught, directly or indirectly, that love must be earned through self-sacrifice, that peace means silence, and that being good is more important than being real. But as Jung revealed, every unspoken truth has consequences. Every yes that should have been a no leaves a scar. And every act of hiding feeds a shadow that eventually turns against us. The question then becomes, what is the cost of always being nice? The cost is relationships built on illusions rather than honesty. The cost is careers that leave us unfulfilled because we never demanded more. The cost is a life lived for the approval of others instead of the truth of ourselves. But the good news, the liberating truth, is this: the mask can always be removed. The shadow can always be faced. And authenticity can always be reclaimed, no matter how many years we've spent hiding. To be authentic doesn't mean to be cruel or selfish. It means to speak the truth with respect, to honor both our needs and those of others, and to embrace the paradox that real kindness sometimes requires confrontation, boundaries, and even discomfort. As Jung once said, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Yet it is also the most freeing. Fred's story is a mirror. The question is, what about you? How many times have you stayed silent, smiled politely, or agreed when every part of you wanted to say no? The work of individuation, the work of reclaiming your wholeness, begins in those very moments. Each time you choose honesty over avoidance, each time you choose self-respect over appeasement, you weaken the grip of the shadow and strengthen the presence of the self. So perhaps the next time you feel the urge to be nice, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, am I being kind, or am I just afraid? Because true kindness does not fear conflict. And true authenticity never demands self-erasure.